Hey everybody, doing a video series on MOI matching, what I also call balance matching. Now I've got a lot of readers in the last month or so have asked me about MOI matching. What is it? How do you measure it? How do you match them? And what's the fitting process? So I wanted to kind of go over this, and this can be the first video series. And essentially what I'm going to be doing here is just going over the basics of uh, MOI and what it is and how I measure it. Uh, First of all, MOI, all it really is we're just trying to find it's an alternative to, it's basically a replacement to swing weight matching. Uh, swing weight and MOI, what they're basically doing is they're trying to accomplish the same thing. They're trying to figure out what the heft of the club is when you're swinging it. Another way to look at it is to uh, try to figure out what the amount of force of the club, amount of force you need to swing the club. So the issue with swing weight is the main issue is it doesn't factor in total static weight. Uh, Back when swing weight was created, the actual machine was created through trial and error because they didn't have the technology that they have today. So what had happened was, they tried to figure out a way to measure the heft of the club when you're swinging it. So they would come up with a machine. They would kind of come up with a way to what they call a logarithmic formula to don't denote what the actual weight or the heft of the club was, and then they would say, okay, try these two clubs out. How do they feel? They feel the same heft, and then the professional, I think it started through Francis Ouimet, would say, okay, this feels too light or this doesn't feel right enough. So they would basically adjust the engineering of the swing weight machine. Now we have technology through MOI machines that we can figure out a more accurate depiction of the heft of the club. Now, one of the questions I always get is, or one of the criticisms I get is that, well, they don't think measuring the heft of the club, even if it's at the most accurate state, is all that important. They think it's mostly just down to feel and what you kind of like for feel, but that's actually couldn't be further from the truth. While measuring MOI does help with the feel, it also helps with performance. If you've ever had that club in your bag where you just hit it so well compared to the other clubs, you can bet that MOI is different from the rest of the clubs. They have the same swing weight, but the MOI is different. Conversely, if you have that club in your bag that you just struggle with it all day long, every time you pull it out, it's like a chore to you. Well, you can bet that MOI is probably well off from the rest of the clubs, even though the swing weight's the same. And the other thing is you see it here, here's my 7-iron that I had MOI matched. The dispersion, this is the basic thing you see is the impact dispersion is fairly tight. I mean, I'm not that great of a golfer, but I consistently hit it right on the money, and we'll get into the fitting process of that in a little bit. But basically, when we're talking about MOI, we are talking about measuring the entire club's MOI. So basically, from the head through the shaft to the grip, and so we're not talking about just the head. You can measure a club head's MOI, but we're actually, for our purposes, we're talking about the entire golf club. And one of the things you'll see is if you are to MOI match a set of irons and then measure the swing weight will actually get progressively heavier. So if I got my irons all MOI matched, and then I measure the swing weight, my 4-iron might come at D0, my 6 iron might come at D2, my 8 iron might come at D4, my pitching wedge may be coming at D6 for swing weight. So we'll kind of go into it here. Here is a 4 iron. Now we're going to kind of reverse engineer this. So as I said, if you MOI match your clubs and then measure the swing weight gets progressively heavier. Well, conversely, if you swing weight match your clubs and then measure the MOI should get progressively lighter. So I've got Ping S55s that I just bought. Just got them in today. Hit them for about a half an hour on the range, and that was it. Their specs are at D1 swing weight from the 3 iron through the 9 iron. The pitching wedge swing weight is at D3. And there's a reason why Ping does this, is because they know if you keep the swing weight the same with your pitching wedge as you do the rest of the irons, the pitching wedge is going to feel way too light. And that's what they do with their sand wedges as well, and lob wedges. They make them, D4, D5, D6 swing weight. So, again, here's the 4 iron. I'm going to measure this. And again, we're trying to look to see what the MOI will be, and we should see that the MOI should get progressively less because these are swing weight matched, not MOI matched. So here's the 4 iron. So we got 2647. Now if you hold on 1 second, I'll install the 9 iron. And one of the good things about MOI matching is that the actual process is easy, and it doesn't take much it doesn't really cost anything to really do it other than having the machine, which helps. You can use there's a formula to measure MOI, but that takes a long time, and then you have to be able to know what the weight of the components are, which is the weight of the shaft and the grip and the head, and then how long they are. So here's the 9 iron. Okay, so the 9 iron's at D1 swing weight. It should get progressively less from 2647. So we got 2598, 2599. So pretty close to 2600. So now I'm going to do the pitching wedge. Now keep in mind, the pitching wedge has a swing weight again of D3. The other clubs had D1. So the pitching wedge is going to have a heavier MOI than the 9 iron. And it should be pretty close to the 4 iron as far as MOI goes. It's kind of hard. Actually, it'd probably be less than the 4 iron, because if you figure it's at D1 swing weight, progressively higher, D6 would be at an MOI of D6. If you tried to MOI match and then based off of a D1 swing weight with a 4 iron, your 6 iron would be about D3, your 8 iron would be D5, D7. So yeah, it's probably gonna be it's probably gonna be less than the 4 iron, which again was at 2645. This is at 2598. This is the 9 iron, so we're gonna measure this. Now we're gonna measure the pitching wedge. .2620. So it was in between the 9 iron and the 4 iron. So here again, this is the wedge. just to show you I'm not goofing on you. So that's really about it for right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do another video soon of showing how you fit for MOI. It's a very easy process, and we'll go from there. So until then, if you have any questions, just feel free to email me.